Your Excellency.
Great stuff. So I think we can start, even though we don't have majority of our peace and ethics advocates, we are going to start because this is already on schedule. So diversity and inclusion. What do we understand by diversity and inclusion? Well, by the end of this class today, by the end of this workshop, you will be able to understand what diversity and inclusion means. And you will understand it in the context of advocacy. You will understand it in the context of the work you will be carrying out, your journey, as advocates for $1 billion for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and all of humanitarian services. So that is, so what is diversity? Diversity means understanding that each individual is unique and recognizing our individual differences. These can be along the dimensions of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, age, physical abilities, religious beliefs, political beliefs, or other ideologies. So why are we talking about diversity? Why is diversity so important? Well, I mean, really, when you think about diversity, is it's around you. I mean, everyone is different in their own way. You mingle with people that are from different ethnic origins. You mingle with the opposite sex. You mingle with people that are old, young, people that are disabled, some that are physically or mentally disabled, and they're all people, they're all human beings. So diversity really, it points out that each and every single person is different from the next person. So as an advocate, you have to realize that, everyone is different, but that doesn't make one person superior to the other. Just because one person is Chinese doesn't make them superior to a Caucasian or to an African American or to an African. So humanity is the same, regardless of your beliefs, your ideas, your level of intellectual capacity, your wealth, your finances, your political parties, your religion, whatever it is, you are human first. That is what diversity is about. And the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is based on this fact that all people everywhere are the same. Okay, so this is something that we need to really understand, that for you to become an advocate or an ambassador, a Goodwill ambassador, you have to realize that other people have things that are unique to them and that makes them different. Okay, we'll go into a lot of detail, as we forge ahead. Right, so diversity and inclusion. This is the wheel of diversity and inclusion. As you can see that our logo is in the middle, is in the center of this wheel, this diversity and inclusion wheel. And this is because as a billion doors, as a member of Billion Doors, you are expected to accept one another as people, as equals to you. No one is superior to the next person. Everyone is human, and that is the basis of everything we believe in. So things that have to do with the race, with ethnicity, age, origin, physical abilities, whatever it is, really, that you're made of, you are welcome to a billion doors. So this is something that I'm going to make available to you all after the workshop. But I mean, it's something that you think about. You know, when you look at it, you would see that it covers all sorts of categories of things, mental health, well-being, religious beliefs. So I mean, in Nigeria, for example, I like to use Nigeria as an example because I mean, we are Nigerians, so we know that there is this thing called tribalism. And tribalism is something that is everywhere. You would see a person that is Igbo or Yoruba or Hausa, that is showing favoritism, perhaps in the working place or at school, in an organization or something of that nature, towards their own type, their own kind, their own type of people. And this is one of the things that has actually impeded growth, economic growth. And this is one of the things that has stirred violence, over the years, all sorts of conflict, all sorts of hate, all sorts of things. And this is because as nationals of Nigeria, people have not come to the terms of understanding that we don't have to believe the same thing for us to be friends. We can be friends even if you are worshiping a tree and I am worshiping God. And I'm not going to look down on you and say that because you're worshiping a tree, that means you're nothing. Or I'm going to look at you and say that, okay, because your tribe actually promotes eating from a pot, then that is just disgusting. No, so, Nigerians, there is that knowledge gap. And this knowledge gap is what we're trying to bridge. We're trying to bridge this by making the young people understand that humanity comes before everything else. Okay, so that is that. So inclusion, what is inclusion? So we talk about diversity and then we talk about inclusion, and they go hand in hand. So I'm just going to read out from here. Inclusion is the very thread of advocacy. Interesting. As an inclusion advocate, you have to speak and act in ways that do not ostracize or offend any of the diverse groups across our college. You are a role model and advocate for tolerance and acceptance. So if you look at this, you would be wondering, okay, what does this mean? In simple words, in simple English, inclusion just means carrying everyone along. Everyone. So if, for example, you are dealing with, okay, for example, in a billion doors, we have people that are from the Niger Delta, we have people that are Igbos, we have people that are Hausas, we have Muslims, we have Christians, but and as leaders, as governance members, we are inclined to carry every single person along without leaning more towards a particular gender or a particular religion or a particular tribe or something of that nature. We are carrying everybody along. So as an advocate, you will be working with humans. You'll be working with all sorts of people, with people from different parts of the world, people of different age group, different gender. And as an advocate, it is a responsibility upon you to carry everyone along with you. And carrying everyone along doesn't just mean carrying them along on paper. No, it actually means implying it. So if, for example, there is a decision that needs to be taken, then it has to be democratic. Everybody's opinion matters. Everybody's choice matters. And majority carry the vote. You know what I mean? So, when we talk about inclusion, it means no bias. No bias. You don't look down on anyone. You don't leave anyone behind. And the statement of leaving no one behind, we're going to come into it. We're going to learn more about it, and it's going to be very interesting by the time you understand what it means leaving no one behind in the context of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So because our communities are filled with diverse individuals and diverse groups of residents who share a common place, they may not experience their community exactly the same as their fellow residents. Inclusion is highlighted as a community process. So obviously, if, for example, you're going to have an event, and this event in your community or in your school or wherever you find yourself, and you want to carry out an event, a group thing or something of that nature, inclusion is in the heart of it. Inclusion, carrying everyone on board, not just carrying them on board, but actually making them feel that they have a place here. So because a person is disabled, they can't walk, or they are on a walking stick, or they don't have a hand or something of that nature, you should make provisions for that person to be comfortable. You should behave, in a way that will make that person feel welcome. You can actually bring someone on board, and then you're making all sorts of gestures with your face, and then obviously that person is not going to feel welcome. So it's your responsibility as an advocate, a goodwill advocate, a peace and ethics advocate, to actually make that person feel comfortable, and to make that person feel like they belong here and they're not aliens. Okay, so inclusion, that person needs to feel respected. So whatever their beliefs are, whatever their mode of dressing is, their culture, their ethnicity, their age group, you should respect it. You should allow them to contribute. Their voices matter. So it's not just only people that have legs and hands that can have a say. Everyone should have a say. Everyone should be given the opportunity to actually have a say, and there is a connection, there's this connection that obviously will be built. Obviously, when you have all these people gathered together in the same place and you're working with them, you're connected. And you're not just connected physically, but you actually have to make this effort to maintain this connection. And this is through communication. So in an instance whereby, a person doesn't, is suffering from a sort of a mental illness, and they're not able to understand things easily, or people that are deaf or dumb or something of that nature, there is a provision for them, whereby you would see that I don't know, I can't remember what you call them, but those people that interpret, for people that can't hear, and for example, you would see in many organizations, especially international organizations, you'll see that there are provisions for translation of meetings into other languages like French, Chinese, Arabic, especially the UN. The UN does this all the time. Every time they're having a meeting, they always try to have an interpreter, and this is just so as to carry every single person along. And this is how whatever it is you're doing will progress, and reach certain heights. So that is that. So we're just going to look into a little bit more detail on some of the things that make us diverse, So race and ethnicity, so when you think of race and ethnicity, right? They are related. These are related to biological and sociological factors, basically. So we're talking about your biological formation, your genetic formation, and you're talking about your social belonging, You know, so when you're talking about race, you're talking about ethnicity, as it's just straight to the point. What are you made of genetically, and what are those social factors that that influence who you are, your personality, and things like that. So race refers to a person's physical characteristics such as bone structure, skin, hair, or eye color, right? Ethnicity, however, refers to cultural factors including nationality, regional culture, ancestry, and language. So, I mean, we're Black, for instance, so our hair is different, our eyes are different, our skin is different because we're Black. Okay. And then we're talking about ethnicity. So within a race, you can have ethnic groups within a race. So you have a race, you have the African race, and then you have ethnicity within the African race. So here you're talking about regional culture, ancestry. So, for example, I am Fulani, so my race is African. My ethnicity is Fulani. And ethnicity is made up of things that have to do with um, um, uh, uh, my way of life, my way of my language, my food, you know, the kind of things that I eat, you know, and all of those things make me Fulani, you know, and obviously, as long as you fall in those things that make us similar, as long as you practice those things that make us similar, then you and I belong to the same, we have the same ethnic origin. I don't know if this is too complex, but yeah, that's what it is. So anyway, your race is determined by how you look, while your ethnicity is determined based on social and cultural groups you belong to. So like I said, you know, your ethnicity is more of whether you're Fulani, whether you're Yoruba, whether you're Hausa or whatever. Okay, so, but your race is that you are Black, you are African. So you can have more than one ethnicities, but you are said to be, you're only said to have one race. So yes, you can have more than one ethnicity. So for example, my daddy is Kanuri, my mom is Fulani. So I'm both. I'm both. All of the things surrounding the Fulani culture, I practice. All of the things surrounding the Kanuri culture, I practice. So I have more than one ethnicity. But then my race is one. I'm African, I'm Black. So those are the things that you have to look, you know, from that perspective. So as a humanitarian advocate, you know, your humanitarian aspect has to shine above anything else. We have to believe that no race is better than the other. No birthright given above each other equatorially. So as a humanitarian advocate, your priority is humanity. Your priority is humanity. No race is above another race. No ethnic group is superior to another ethnic group. So you have to carry that flag with you. And this is what makes you different from normal people. This is what makes you stand out. And this is what makes you have a very open mind and a perspective that is entirely different from the ordinary people. And that is why after this type of training, you are expected to have a vision that is entirely brand new, if you already don't have one, of how you judge people, how how you stereotype people, okay, how you stereotype, how you see the world, how you take decisions. So that is that. So culture, norms, and social norms. So all of this that I'm talking about, remember, we are discussing diversity. Diversity. So when you talk about culture, you're talking about a way of life, people's beliefs, values, symbols, you know. When you're talking about norms, you know, they are mostly uh, um, they're most commonly defined as rules or expectations that are socially enforced. So you're talking about social norms, you're talking about cultural norms. So I mean, there are things that are around us, you know, things that are that you just woke up, you were born in them. So, for example, there are social norms that infringe on human rights. There are social norms that are discriminatory of women. You know, there are all sorts of norms. So, I mean, when you're talking about culture within cultures, then you have you have within societies, you have norms, you have social norms, you have all sorts of beliefs, you know, and all of this joined together, you know, make up the society. So that is every location, every culture, you know, every community, you would realize that they have these norms that are unique to them. Okay. And as an advocate, you know, as an advocate or a goodwill advocate, you're supposed to realize that people are different, cultures are different, norms are different, you know, and as an advocate, you are expected to respect those cultures. You are expected to respect social norms, especially the ones that are for human rights, you know, and the ones obviously against, that are ones that are infringing on human rights, such as female genital mutilation. You know, you are expected to not support those type of social norms. So that is that. So as advocates, we must always mend cultural differences by believing that no one culture surpasses the other. We must learn to adapt to and appreciate other people's cultures. In this way, we will bridge the gap to understanding cultural differences. So when you have an open mind and you don't have that belief that, oh, my culture is superior to every other culture on earth, then you will learn to appreciate other people's cultures. And by appreciating other people's cultures, in your heart, you'll have more love than hate. And when you do this, these are the things that give you exposure. These are the things that that make you exposed. So for example, you know, when I was in school, obviously, and you know, I had to stay, you know, with a family that was Italian, you know, and when I did join them, it was really difficult because I was underaged. I was 15, and they're Italians, and the only thing they ate was pasta. So it was really hard for me because I mean, I'm used to eating rice and stew in my country, and all the other delicacies, you know, all the spicy food and all of that. And then I'm here all of a sudden with a complete different breed of people. You know, I'm used to traveling, but I haven't stayed with a foreign family, and it was my first time. So it was like a real shock. There was a real culture shock, you know. But you know, I mean, I was lucky enough to have you know, to have parents that did tell me that, okay, you know what, you just go with the flow. Just go with the flow. Whatever you meet, whatever you see, go with the flow. And that was how, you know, in the beginning, it took me a whole year. I didn't go with the flow. I hated it so much because I was young, you know. But thinking about it now, if I could put reverse, you know, the clock, I would actually open up my mind and welcome all those things. But that being said, I did learn a lot. You know, by the time I did loosen up, I learned a lot. And you know, I embraced it, you know, to the extent that as it is right now, one of my favorite meals is pasta, lasagna. You know, I eat all sorts of, I make all sorts of Italian meals. So I mean, by the time you are able to accommodate other cultures, you become exposed. you become exposed. It gives you exposure because you're able to talk about these things. You're able to tolerate people. So I mean, all those experiences. When I went to America, you know, in 2012, you know, to do a program, you know, I did have to stay with Ghanaians, and it wasn't weird because I have already experienced living with all the kinds of people, so it wasn't so difficult for me to do this. Okay, so it's really important that you realize and understand that people are the same. People are all people, but people have their beliefs, they have their culture, they have their social norms. And as an advocate, you have to open up your mind to accept these differences, and you accept them positively. And in this way, you will have a mind that is exposed, that is accepting, you know, open, and tolerant. So that is that. So what is a creed? When we talk about creed, we are talking about symbols. We're talking about faith. You know, it is a statement of the shared beliefs of a community in the form of a fixed formula summarizing core tenets. So what is a creed? You know, when we talk about creed, we're talking about, you know, those things that different people from different religions hold on to. So for example, you know, in Islam, you know, one of our creeds is the Quran. And then in Christianity, you know, one of their creeds is the Bible. You know, so I mean, when you think about all of these things, you're working with different sorts of people that have different creeds. They have different beliefs. They have religions that are not the same as yours. And as an advocate, as a Goodwill advocate, you have to accept this. You have to learn that all of this all of these are things that you must respect. You must respect, and you can't look down upon any single one of them because you feel that they are inferior to you. No, they are not. They are beliefs, they are in the head. So humanity comes first. So you treat a person well because they're humans, regardless of their religion, regardless of their tribe, regardless of what they hold most dear to them. Okay, so that is one thing that is very important to understand, that this concept of creed is a very sensitive matter, because you will have you'll come across a lot of uh, different kinds of people with different creeds. So the earliest creed in Christianity is that it's a statement: Jesus is Lord. For Muslims, it's the Shahada, or the testimony. For Judaism, I'm not sure, so I'm just going to leave that. But these are examples of creeds as well. So citizenship, nationality, and rights. So I'm going to talk about citizenship, nationality, and rights in the context of Nigeria. And citizenship is based upon the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Those born before or on the date of independence, October 1, 1960, whose parents or grandparents were born in Nigeria, who are legally residing in Nigeria at the time, are considered citizens of Nigeria. Nationality is a legal identification of a person in international law, establishing the person as a subject, a national of a sovereign state. It affords the state jurisdiction. Please, can you mute your mic? So, yeah, so nationality is a legal identification of a person in international law, establishing the person as a subject and national of a sovereign state. It affords the state jurisdiction over the person and affords the person the protection of the state against other states. So why am I talking about this? So you see, the Nigerian constitution is formed obviously with reference to international laws, things that have to do with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, precisely, and some some covenants of the United Nations. So it's very important that we realize that everybody is actually a fundamental human right to have a citizenship. So wherever you're born, not just Nigeria, wherever you are born, it is a right. It is a right that you must have a citizenship. You must have an identity as a person. I'm not saying that just because you were given birth to in say, for example, let's say the United Kingdom, that you must have a citizenship of United Kingdom. No, I mean, because they have their laws, but you must have some kind of citizenship, because in the UK, for example, the citizenship, if your parents are foreign nationals and they give birth to you, you can't claim citizenship. Sorry, excuse me. So you can't claim citizenship. So and the reason obviously is because their laws are different. They're not accommodating of foreign alien nationals to just coming, give birth and have children that are British. They don't, their laws doesn't accommodate it. But the bottom line is that in other countries, if you were born there, for example, in the US, if you were born there, on US soil, you are American, no matter where your parents, whether they're from Mars or Jupiter or whatever, but you're just American. So the same thing with Nigeria, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, as an advocate, as a Goodwill Advocate, as an ambassador, you will work with different kinds of people that have different nationalities, and within those nationalities they have their constitutional rights different from your country's constitutional rights. And if you find yourself ever in other parts of the world, you would have to bend to those rights accorded to expatriates. So if you go to other countries on a mission, for example, I think I did share some UN volunteer website link where you can apply for UN volunteer. If you happen to go on a mission or something of that nature on a UN mission, there are certain laws that protect you as an expatriate. And there are some constitutional rights, as a Nigerian, that follow you to wherever you're going, that protect you, obviously. So, but while you're there, you have to respect their nationality. You have to respect, their laws. You have to respect, all the things, accorded to them within their space. So it's very important that you understand that your laws and other countries' laws are very different. Although they all have a source from international laws, from the United Nations treaties, that doesn't make them the same. So it's very important that you understand it. So as a Nigerian, you have rights, under the Constitution, freedom of thought, conscience, religions, right to freedom of expression, right to freedom of movement, right to freedom of from discrimination. So I mean, obviously you will go on expatriation, and then there can be situations you can find yourself one day as a receiver of foreigners. So impatriation, people coming from other parts of the world to visit you here on a mission. And if, for example, you're working with the African Union or the United Nations, and your ability to accommodate those kind of people, reflecting upon their nationality, it makes you a good ambassador. So that's it really. So as an advocate, you will experience diversity in your everyday life. You'll have regular exposure to people, cultures, traditions, and practices that are unlike your own. And this is very important. You will learn the skills to communicate and interact with communities and concepts that you are unfamiliar with, and gain a more worldly view. So for example, you see, we're going to have this internship that is going to roll out in January, and you're going to meet by the time they graduate, because it's a 12-week course, and they're going to graduate. And these are people from different parts of the world, from Ethiopia, Cameroon, I think, where else? Kenya, uh, Chad. I'm not sure, but yeah, there are people from different parts of the world, different parts of Africa. So by the time they graduate, some of them are actually going to remain as members of a Billion Doors Initiative, and you're going to have to work together. You're going to have to do some advocacy together. You're going to probably have to do projects together. You're probably going to have to meet one day. They are probably going to come to visit you here in Nigeria, or you are going to have to go there. So, I mean, while you're working, there are things that you will become exposed to. In some cultures, they greet in a particular way, and in other cultures, in that way. I mean, okay, let me give you an example. In the English culture, obviously, people just give out their hand. Handshake is a norm. But in my culture, if you're a younger person and you're coming to greet my dad or my mom, you can't give her a hand. That's just seen as rude. That's seen as disrespect. Okay, so it's important, every time that that, okay, you're visiting or you're working with certain kinds of people from other parts of the world with different cultures, traditions, and practices, unlike your own, you're able to read about that country. So you see, all of these things that I mentioned today, cultures, religion, you research these things. Is online. So if, for example, you're going to Russia, or you're going to say Switzerland, you can just read up these things on the internet, and this knowledge is going to help you by the time you get there, because then they will see that you have some degree of understanding of their knowledge, of their traditions, and way of interacting with their people. And this obviously will give you an advantage. So a goodwill advocate is a person who advocates for a specific cause or a global issue on the basis of their notability as a public figure. Goodwill advocates generally deliver goodwill by promoting ideals from one entity to another, or to a population. You will advocate and teach peace, prevent and resolve conflicts. You will lead by example and become a role model by involving everyone and leaving no one behind. As a goodwill advocate, you will meet people from diverse walks of life, from different cultures and religions. So as a goodwill advocate, this is just as clear as glass. I don't even think I need to explain anything beyond this, but this is what it is. This is what you're going to be doing. So you are an advocate of peace and ethics. You are a goodwill advocate, because what you're advocating for is goodwill. You're advocating anti-violence. You're advocating peace. You're advocating sexual abuse prevention. You're advocating a lot of things all in a bundle. So obviously, while you're doing that, you will interact with people from all ideals, all parts of the society, crazy people, normal people, rude people, nice people, all sorts of people. And your ability to be diplomatic, your ability to handle things, makes you an excellent ambassador. So that's that. So the SDGs. Now I'm going to go into the SDGs, not in detail, but just a little bit. They are the result of the most consultative, inclusive process in the history of the UN. Realization of human rights for people everywhere without discrimination. So as you can see, if you look at this, if you look at the SDGs, the way they were designed, the 17 goals, if you look at them, you would see that they are all overlapping. They overlap on one another. So you're trying to end hunger. In the process of ending hunger, that's goal number 2. You're dealing with goal number 1. In the process of gender equality, goal number 5, you're also let's see, which one are you dealing with? You are also trying to build on peace, justice, and strong institutions. So gender equality, you're trying to promote gender equality. What are you doing? You're trying to build justice in the system. You're trying to make sure women get what they deserve. You're trying to make sure that women's rights are not being stepped up upon. And all of this shows you that every single goal has been designed in such a way that it has an aspect of diversity inside it. Diversity and inclusion. So there is no discrimination in the SDGs. And obviously, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, is designed on the concept of diversity and inclusion. And then the SDGs were formed making a reference to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that is bringing everyone, inclusive of everyone. So there is something for every single human on the SDGs. There is something for everyone on the 17 goals. Something affects you somehow, and all of them overlap on each other. So all of them they are interdependent, basically. So if, for example, you think, oh, I'm not a humanitarian, I am just a businessman, I'm an entrepreneur. No, you can be an when you are actually, the minute you start doing business, what are you trying to do? You're trying to achieve goal number 1. You don't even know. You're trying to end poverty, because when you become an entrepreneur, you're creating wealth. You are employing people. You are buying from other people. You are empowering other people. So in the process of doing that, you are actually a social entrepreneur. You are actually an entrepreneur. You are a social entrepreneur of the SDGs. So whatever you are, wherever you find yourself, whatever your profession, whatever you decide to do with yourself, the SDG has everything to do with you. So that's the relationship that I wanted to show you, between Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Sustainable Development Goals, and you as a person. Okay? So that's that. So yeah, what is human rights? So what is human rights? Human rights are rights inherent to all human beings, regardless of race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or any other status. Human rights include the right to life and liberty, freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education, and many more. Everyone is entitled to these rights without discrimination. So all of these rights, now we see all of these human rights, all of this are connected to the SDGs, because what the SDG is reminding us, that we're leaving no one behind. So regardless of your nationality, regardless of your race, your age, your language, your religion, your profession, whatever it is you're doing, you are part of the SDGs. The SDGs is a part of you. So it's this idea of inclusiveness, diversity and inclusiveness. So all sorts of people, all kinds of people everywhere around the world, in Alaska, in Atlanta, in Nigeria, in South Africa, South America, wherever. All kinds of people everywhere without discrimination. Without discrimination, meaning inclusion of everyone. So you're including every single person on board. So in everything that you're doing, inclusiveness is very, very key, because this is how you're able to incorporate the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and upholding this Universal Declaration in your own activities. So that is that. And that is the end of this. I think that's the end, yeah, of this slideshow, and that is the end of this program. Yes, that is the end. So if you have any questions, you can ask them now. That is the end of diversity and inclusion workshop. So do we have any questions? Do we understand? Is there anything you don't understand, or anything you need clarification upon? Or I mean, diversity and inclusion is pretty straightforward. It's not something that is too complex. It's something that is really straightforward. Are you seriously not going to ask me any questions? Are you serious? Are you sure you understand everything I said today? Okay, comments.
Yes.
Do you have any comments? Was it interesting? Was it boring? Did you learn something? Can you say something, please?
It was interesting.
Oh, thank you. Is that Taslima? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Great. You do understand everything, right, Taslima? You're going to be an
Yes.
excellent advocate. We can't wait to roll you out, That's very good.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for the presentation.
You're
Uh, in
welcome.
short, the presentation was excellent, and it kind of broadened our knowledge in terms of diversification, what it is, how to face challenges like culture shock when you find yourself in different environments with different people, perhaps due to diversity of their colors, their gender, or their ethnicity, or race in particular. The example you gave us during your school days outside the shores of Nigeria, how you were able to cope with the new family you met there, is a very good a kind of example that anybody that finds himself in a new environment need to adapt, because for now what you are saying is that if the time will reverse itself, you'll be happy to adapt quickly than you did because of the experiences and because how later on you begin to appreciate the differences in everybody's culture, attitudes, and whatever. That differences are natural things that exist. You can't have two people that have the same character, attitude, or come from the same place. In fact, those explanations and those examples you gave were very apt and very educating. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're most welcome. Thank you. We're going to have you tomorrow as well. So we're looking forward to that. Thank you.
Your Excellency, well done.
Can I
It's a
explain?
brilliant presentation.
Thank you so much,
And I
Can
have
I
a
Ambassador.
explain what I
question.
learned?
I have a question.
Okay.
We as the ambassadors, and how a person can be a good will advocate in our local communities where security is at stake. Hello?
Yes, I'm here. How can you be an
Yeah,
advocate in your local communities where security is at stake?
yeah.
Well, you see, this is a very complex, it's a very controversial statement because you see, when you're talking about security, you're talking about life, and it's something that is very, delicate, so one has to always be careful. This is one of the advantages of technology. You can actually reach out to so many people using technology, and the social media, it's a very powerful tool, and it's amazing that we have there's so many platforms, a billion those platforms. We have the website, we have the blog, we have the YouTube channel, we have the Instagram, we have Twitter, there are so many platforms for you. So I
Yeah.
mean, all you need to do is to you know build on whatever it is you want to start your advocacy on. And when you do this, you build your circle, and you get your information across to them. And obviously, it's going to be way, way easy for you to achieve this, because one of the most important things is to know, to have the knowledge, to handle people, to be diplomatic, to actually be able to negotiate, with people that have varying opinions, and to consolidate these opinions to the advantage of humanity. So obviously, as an advocate, although there are security challenges where you are, we would not expect you to go out places where you're going to risk your life or put yourself at risk. But obviously, nobody knows what the situation is going to be in Nigeria. But whatever it is, the internet is available to many. So yes, that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you so much, and
Thank
it's
you.
really understandable. It's a nice presentation indeed.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Habiba Isiaka. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Okay. So, I mean, if we don't have any more to say, we can call it a night, and then we'll see you all tomorrow again. For the peace training by His Excellency Ambassador Zachary Gimba. It's going to be a very, very educative session, where Ambassador Zachary draws upon a lot of things that have to do with peace, conflict resolution, negotiation, wars. It's quite interesting. It's like watching a movie or something. So make sure you turn up, don't miss it. Put a reminder, and we'll see you tomorrow. And then next week, Saturday, you are going to have your sexual violence prevention workshop. And then after that, you'll have the ethics workshop as well, and that is going to be by me and Shailat Abiodun. We don't have a date for that yet because we don't know if it's actually going to conflict with Christmas, but whatever it is, we'll give you a date before the time comes. And after all these workshops, you're going to get your very powerful certificate to show off and begin your advocacy. So thank you all very much and have a good night. Thank you. Thank you, Mariam Abdurrahman. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you all.
Excellency. Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you,
Thank
Good
you.
everybody.
night to you all. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night, everyone. Good night, Taslima.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night. Good night.